Rev up your engines. All right, squeaky brakes. It drives us all nuts. What makes squeaky brakes? Well, I'm going to show you. Do you want to fix them? Do you want to live with the noise? Or is there something else wrong other than just the brake pads? The guy had the front brakes done less than a year ago. Now they're squeaky. Could be a sticky caliper, then it's stuck, then they wore down and they're squeaking. But it could also be worn out rotors. When they get worn and all real shiny, then they squeak. It's actually not a squeak. What it is, it's a very high-pitched vibration. We hear it as a squeak. But if you got an oscilloscope, you could see it's a high-pitched vibration because the brake pads are vibrating on a shiny rotor, or it could just be cheap brake pads. Understand this. The cheap brake pads will stop your car okay because they're hard. But the harder they are, the more noise they make. And then you might say, well, how come it didn't squeak for 11 months and it's squeaking now? Well, many of the cheaper pads, they got a coating on them. And the coating will wear out after a while. Then they start squeaking again. Now, this one's squeaking in the front. So let's take it up, see what it looks like at the wheels. So we'll start the left front. It's a dirty job, so you put gloves on. You don't want brake dust and crap all over your hands. So we'll take this wheel off first. What a guess. I guessed right first time. Look at that. Take them all off. One more. And away it goes. Fake hubcaps. They look good. Now you can see the rotors are shiny and they're somewhat worn. We'll look at the pads next. Now these are hard to get off, so I got a long cheater bar. And now they come loose pretty easy. Off comes the bolt. Now we should be able to swing it up. And as you can see, there's still plenty of meat. The pads themselves aren't worn out. So in this case, the squeaking is two things. They're cheaper pads, and as you can see, the rotors are all shiny and worn. Now, the rotors are worn, but when he stops at high speeds, the steering wheel doesn't shake, so they're not warped. They're just worn. And this is an old Dodge. The computer's starting to go bad. He doesn't want to put a fortune in it, so he went out. I told him, get these Akabono brake pads. When we're done, it will no longer squeak because there's something in these ceramic Akabonos. They don't make noise. They're excellent pads. Now, if this was your car and it was a nice car, yeah, I'd put these on. I'd also change the rotors. Now, since I'm using the Akabono pads, I could go buy the cheap AutoZone or Pep Boy or whatever rotors, and they'd work perfectly fine. If you use cheaper pads, you'd have to get better rotors. But these, they don't wear the rotors much, they don't make any noise. So if you want to be cheap, you don't want to have any noise, just buy the Akabono pads. They cost a little bit more, but rotors cost a lot more than that. So we're just going to replace the pads. If you wanted, replace the rotors too. But hey, who knows how much longer this stupid thing with the computer going out is going to last. So, I mean, look at the car. The paint's fading off of it. They're thinking about getting a Toyota Corolla anyway, so we'll get rid of the noise with this. So we'll get a nice pair of big old pliers and we'll squeeze it in. We're retracting the piston, but you squeeze it until it's all the way seated in. Now you can see it squeezed the whole way in. We'll take the old pads off. Like I say, they're not all that worn. They got plenty of thickness, but they're cheaper pads and they're going to make noise. But before we put the pads on, we get some of this. I like Stay Lube. It's good company. Brake and caliper grease. You don't need a big tub. They make little bitty single-use ones. Now what you do is, the little end, you put a little grease on so it stays, and you put a little bit where the slider goes on the top. Then as you can see, it's simple. You put them at an angle and they snap right in. Then we do the other side. That snapped in, and slide the top on. There it goes. Put the caliper bolt in, put it finger tight, then make it super tight. Then we get our extension bar, get it nice and tight. You don't want it getting loose. Now we have this wheel on, and before we go any further, pump the brakes, because you gotta pump them to make them hard. See how they go to the floor? Now they're hard. That makes the pads seat. Now we'll do the other side. Here we see it's shiny again and somewhat warm, but it's not shaking when you brake, so they're not warped. Now here's the trick. This bottom one's kind of stuck super hard, so we're gonna try the top side instead. Sometimes there's enough room we can do it from the top. Although we'll have to take these two off so it'll swing enough. Otherwise that'll grab it. We take these top bolts off. See, now there's swing area. So you can swing it the other way. This was hard to get off. And this is a very good suggestion. Rather than break things because it's stuck, maybe cross-threaded, try the other side. We get the new pads with the grease on them and snap it in and do the other side. And it's the same as the other side. As you can see, there's plenty of pad left on the old one. It's just making noise. So we got the both sides on. Oh, I forgot to squeeze it in. Look at me, I'm getting old. So we squeezed it in now. Stick it on, and we'll see if we lost the bolt. No, the bolt goes in there. Like I say, if that one's stuck and it really won't come off, don't try breaking it. Do the other side instead. Goes both ways. And again, get your cheater bar, get it nice and tight. You don't want it coming off. You do anything, pump the brakes. Pump them. See, it's low, now it's hard. If you don't pump them, you're gonna be for a big surprise. You back out, say here, you're gonna end up in a ditch in your neighbor's yard because the pedal will go to the floor and it won't stop. Pump it to build up the pressure. You only have to do it once. When you're done, it'll be nice and hard. Back down. I can't, my hands are too sweaty. There, now I can. And we'll see if the squeaking stops. We'll get it going and we'll step on the brakes. And what do we hear? Nothing. Not a sound, except for the AC. Here, I'll turn that off. We'll do it again. Here we go. We're going up the hill. Step on the brakes. Not a sound. Totally silent brakes. And again, we're going back in the driveway. There's the soldier waiting for his car, his wife's car. And no sound at all. Success. So what did we learn today? You learned all about squeaky brakes. In this case, if you didn't care about the noise, you could have pulled them off and said there's still plenty of pads. The heck with it. It's not shaking. It's not pulling. It stops fine. You don't care. If you don't like the noise, you buy quality pads like these Acabona ceramics and just replace them. It won't make any noise. And if you really want to do a perfect job, you would change both the rotors and the pads. But in this case, since they weren't warped, and if they were warped, you're going 60, you hit the brakes, your steering wheel will shake. It doesn't do that. They're just worn. They don't make any noise now. He's going to be trading this thing in soon anyways. So he got rid of the noise by just buying the pads and having me put them on. It's that simple. And here's some bonus questions and answers. The blacktop says, why is my junkyard automatic transmission jerking? I got an 02 Honda Civic. Several months ago, I replaced the automatic transmission. When I test drive, it jerks. From a junkyard. What can I do? Well, pray it's not the transmission. Your transmission can jerk if your fuel filter's clogged, if your fuel injectors aren't working right, if your ignition system is failing. You can get a lot of reasons why it will jerk. Have a guy like me road test it, hook up a scan tool, and look at the data. Pray it's like a bad ignition coil that's making it misfire, making it jerk. Because if it isn't that, odds are it's the transmission. This is why I warn people. You buy a used transmission from a junkyard, you never know how many miles it has on it, if it's good or not. I had a friend at a junkyard in Houston years ago, and I went there one time and I said, oh look, I noticed your transmissions are all low mileage, under 100,000. And he just laughed and he said, Scotty, he says, they all got well over 100, some of them have over 200,000. But I just write low mileage on them because the guy across the street does the same thing with his. And if somebody comes to mine and says, oh, your transmission has 230,000, his only has 48, I'm going to buy his. Well, they're both lying. And you're just stuck. You can't believe anything they tell you in a junkyard. I mean, the first thing they do is they jerk the engines and trannies out so there's no proof of what the mileage is. Unless you really knew somebody well in a junkyard and said, when you get a late model low mileage one in, tell me. And then you go in and you see it's in the car and you see the odometer of the car has got 50,000 miles on it and you say, well, give me the engine and tranny, I'll buy it. That's another story. But most of the time they're sitting naked on a shelf or on the ground, and who knows what the real mileage were. It's probably your transmission, but pray it's something else. It makes it jerk like a bad coil. Have that all checked first, and pray it's not the transmission, although it probably is. Shift says, I have a loss of power and my car won't move and drive. Got 2008 Mazda 3. The other day in stop and go traffic, I gave it gas and the RPMs went up, but the car didn't move. I turned it off, turned it back on, then it went. It doesn't have any codes, and I noticed loss of power while hitting inclines. Is it related? Yeah, I can guarantee you it's related. Odds are your transmission's starting to go out. Mazda's was never that good with their automatic transmissions, period. That's an 08. Now, the new ones, it's another story because Toyota owns a bunch of them. They make cars together in Alabama on the same assembly line. So the Mazdas are much better because Toyota's pulled them up on their bootstraps. But that's an 08, and I can guarantee you that your transmission is starting to go out. You say you got 144,000 miles. So basically, it's just starting to go out. If I were you, I'd get rid of the car. If you can get any decent money for it, sell it now, because to fix that correctly, you're going to spend anywhere from $3,500 to $6,500, and it's not worth doing on an 08 Mazda 3 that's got 144,000 miles. He said it does it sometimes not. Get rid of it now. Go to Carfax, trade it in, get rid of the thing. If you can get decent money or any money, get rid of it before you got to put a small fortune into that thing. Transmissions, when they go out, they cost a fortune to repair, and yours is definitely going out. You step on the gas and it revs and doesn't go anywhere. That's all transmission stuff that does that. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.